It's the strangest the Catholic Church in a nutshell.
Wow.
Nothing to stop them from giving it away. That's the thing that always gets me, because I've been to the Vatican. And I know the history about it as well, because obviously it's all been given over by Mussolini. And obviously, a lot of people have given them stuff through their will. And you're sort of like, well, what do you do with that? Well, arguably, you'd sell it and then give it to the poor. Sort of the principle, the core principle behind it all. And yet, no. It's also interesting as well, the number of defaced statues in the Vatican as well. They've definitely got some sort of issues with penises. To say, like,
Brilliant.
So many fucking levels. It's quite surreal.
One of the things that blew my mind some years ago was the idea of indulgences. So where, you were really rich and you wanted to get into heaven, what you do is you'd build a church, or you'd give the church a shitload of money, and that would be your path to heaven. And it was a real idea for a long time. And in a sense, when we talk about people, in particular in the US, spending money for prayers, like, here's $50 and I'll do a prayer for you. It's a sort of indulgences as well.
Yeah, it's everything is marketable. There were prayer NFTs for a while. It's unbelievable.
Are you aware of Run DMC's, I think it's Run from Run DMC, who's started his own religion? Have you heard of this one?
No.
It's surreal. So obviously, he's got stage presence and everything, but basically he's a religion which is based on Christianity, but it means that you should be rich and there shouldn't be a problem with being rich. And so in one of his marketing videos, the camera goes into his estate and he's got 2 solid gold lions at the front door, and he's showing off all his cars. And you're like, don't think this is what Jesus was saying, or at least
but it also relies on poor people giving him money, because rich people aren't going to give. Rich people are like, what would I give this guy money for? I got this money from whatever way, whatever way I did. I'm not going to give it over to somebody who's like me, because so this whole idea, it's okay to be rich, but it relies on poor people.
Sounds very similar to the Conservative Party.
Yeah. It's so straight. I love that that's a new religion, because that's been happening with televangelists for prosperity. Christianity has been a thing for a very long time. People arguing that it's great to be rich and give me all your money.
You had the Netflix program as well, didn't you, Max, in Italy, with I can never remember her name. It's the mum and the daughter, who basically sell prayers.
Vanna Marchi. I don't know about the daughter, but she went to prison for fraud.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And then as soon as she was out of prison, she was doing it again, and people were still, people were sending her money. So I think it was a sort of cold reading or something like that she was doing. I don't know if it was about prayers, but it was some sort of scam. And
so she got a Brazilian butler that she discovered. She went to some rich guy's house, and this Brazilian butler was there, and he didn't wear shoes, and he was a bit eccentric. And basically, she got him onto the show and got him to start saying prayers. And then she set up a telemarketing scheme where she would tell people in Italy to call up to ask for a prayer to give them what they wanted. So then call up. And then maybe some of them would call back and go, well, it didn't answer my prayer. And they go, oh, that's because you didn't do it right. Or it's because you didn't pray hard enough. Or you got to have a second one because you're that bad. And you're like, well, we heard this all before. It's not good for her to do it. But we've literally heard this for the last couple of 100,000 years. Wow. I wasn't expecting a religious... Are we all atheists here? Are we not? Did we ask these questions?
Well, strangely enough, I used to get funny looks from my grandma, just like devout Christian. We would trolleyed into church down road from where I lived for confession, and all that sort of stuff. Tell me your confession. I've got a dodgy Reader's Digest under my pillow or something. Right, 5 Hail Marys and whatever. But yeah. Yeah. I went to a Catholic school. I were confirmed and Holy Communion and all that. Dragged there, kicking and screaming with my grandma. and, and like as I got older, she started looking at me funny because I started growing my hair long and coming in with coming at see with me Iron Maiden t-shirt, 666 number of the beast. And she's there, go to HMV, and she's there looking at Barbara Streisand. I'm coming down with Ozzy Osbourne's Suicide Solution. Can I have that, Grandma? But yeah, no, but when I went to Catholic school and they're reading all this stuff about Adam and Eve and stuff like that, it was Eve something like created by his left rib or something or whatever. And I'm hearing all this stuff, and I'm someone who was a little bit more matter of fact, really. If it just sounds a bit weird, I just think, no, that's not true. Surely not. and like my grandma said, your other son could come down, leave Darren up home, leave him with his dodgy music.
I was raised Catholic, but then I went through a sort of crisis where I no longer believed I was Catholic, and then I started experimenting with different religions. But the problem for me was that every time I'd ask a question, the response would be, they'd have a response, and then I'd go a bit deeper, and then the response would eventually be, well, you just have to believe. And I was like, that's not a good reason. Like, for example, why should I do this or why shouldn't I do that? And the response, well, look, just read in the Bible. And you'd read the Bible and be like, okay, but that's not answering my question. So I'd ask more questions. And the response was all at the end was like, well, you just have to believe. And then it started to collapse for me. It's like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. And then it was things like, okay, as Darren was saying, from the rib, well, they'd say, well, that's a metaphor, it's not to be taken literally. But then there are things in the Bible you'd be like, okay, well, is this literal or is it metaphorical? Should I take this literally or not? And then you'd ask one person, they say, well, you have to take it literally, and then the other would say, no, it's just a metaphor. And then but then when you'd ask, okay, well, how do I identify which is the real one or which is is metaphorical? And they'd be like, well, you just have to believe. It's like, yeah, but you wouldn't apply that to anything else unless it's Brexit. There you have to just believe. But it
believe.
just believe. Emma, what about yourself? We're recording anyway, so we can fit.
If you don't like it, we'll edit it out.
Yeah, sure. I didn't grow up religious, didn't have a particularly religious family. My dad was a staunch atheist and my mum was sort of like a bit woo-woo, a bit spiritual, but not really committed to anything in that sort of nice way. But we had, the vicar came into school and we went to church for events or whatever. And I just assumed the only thing I remember the vicar sort of teaching us was that baby Jesus did cry, unlike the hymns, because he was a normal baby. That's the only thing I held on to, that and just assumed that baby Jesus was real and he cried like a normal baby. For some reason, that's the only thing that I've held on to. And I just thought religion was really interesting. So I was interested in sort of what people believe and, I had my like teenage rebellious phase where I found it all very annoying. So every time I had to like listen to, some sort of Christian speech or whatever, I'd be like, oh, stupid. And, read some Richard Dawkins to feel better or whatever. And then, my dad turned 50 and he had a religious experience and became a born again Christian. So it was like, all right, well, reread the Bible, see what I think, try and chat about it. And he used to be a conspiracy theorist. So I sort of was at the stage of taking everything he said with a little grain of salt. And he started off with the creationist, Noah's Ark was real, biblical literalism. I tried to talk about the Ark and he was saying, there weren't all the spiders, it was spider kind. And I thought, oh, no. That has got me into more sort of skeptic communities because some of that stuff you just think there's got to be other people out there that know that this is madness. I can share this
Because
with.
that's the thing, is like, once you start asking questions, you know, people are not able to give a response. So their ultimate response is, well, you just have to believe that there was an ark.
Yeah, well, what I was told, what my dad said, and then what I've been told continuously whenever I sort of talk about, you know, creationism or fundamentalism of any kind, is that if you read the Bible properly, the Holy Spirit will come and then you'll understand it. I thought, I've read every book of the Bible this many times back and forth. I've like engaged with scholars and read all this extra stuff and done all these courses, and the Spirit has been nowhere to be seen. Like, what am I doing? Well, you're just not open to it. There's nothing I can do. It's never going to happen for me.
Yeah.
That's a classic argument, isn't it? You haven't done it right.
Not doing it right. Not
you're
feeling
not
it.
doing it right. You're not, you know, you're not reading it in the right way. It's like, really? I mean, the thing that always fascinates me is how many religions there are just scattered all over the planet. And you're like, so what's that about? And there's obviously no answer to it from any religious group. It's also sort of connected to your location, what religion you fall into. It's connected to your family and what you fall into. It's connected to the school. I mean, they at my school, they got us to go to church once a week. It didn't matter what religion you were, you all had to go and sing Christian hymns. Didn't matter if you're an atheist, you had to sing Christian hymns. Your opinion didn't matter whatsoever, which was fascinating in itself. But I was quite lucky in the fact that my RE teacher, from when I was like 11 to 13, he would tell you these stories about what had happened, and then he'd give a pragmatic answer. So he'd be like, you were mentioning the rib earlier. He'd be like, well, that's probably because he didn't understand medical science. So they just came up with some conclusion when someone asked them the question, and someone went, oh, that's a really good idea, and then wrote it down. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot more sense. And you were mentioning Adam and Eve. I mean, they're meant to have 2 sons. So we know now from the Dead Sea Scrolls having been untapped.
Okay, then we have to stop the discussion there, because then we're going to get into some. No, I'm joking. But yeah, because then you go like, okay, so they had son and then they had children. But wait a minute, don't ask any more questions about how they arrived at that.
my main take of it, it was just a bunch of 12 mates drunk in a pub. We'll just write a Bible, you know, in his own little farm.
Like Britannia Unchained.
Yes.
Or Scientology.
Yeah.
I mean,
Spartans.
That's an interesting one.
Or Mormonism. I think that one's really, really interesting. With magic
Mormonism's
underwear.
Bananas. As soon as because Mormons as people are generally so lovely. The stereotype is pretty true for all the Mormons I've met. They're so delightful and just normal, polite.
Yeah.
When you start reading the literature, it's like, what do you believe? Everybody gets their own planet and becomes a god?
Because I remember one day I finished. It was Yorkshire Day, so everybody's walking around Bradford with the flat caps on and ferrets down the pants or whatever it is, and Witherspoon's just round corner. I know it's a dirty word on this channel, but they had rows of Yorkshire ales on, strawberry blonde, old fart, this and that, and the other, all peculiar. I was absolutely blathered when I walked out of the place. I was absolutely trousered. And as I made my way towards into Bradford town centre, I got sideswiped by these 2 Mormons from Texas. And I'm sort of there, mesmerised, thinking, what are you 2 doing in Bradford? Oh, we're spreading the word and this and that and the other thing. They were dressed up to people who were walking around in the work pants and, plasterers walking by looking at them really funny, look like they've just had a painting accident or all over the clothes. It looked weird. And these 2 dressed up, suited and booted, ties, and I was mesmerised. So trying to get my number, and I went, no, you're all right. No, you're all right on that. So here's some literature for you to read. I thought, I'll just take it to be kind. Went round corner, looked, see them gone, just put it in nearest bin and just got on bus home.
I love that. All the places that Mormons go to their missions. You're going to Bradford.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I bet when the one that I'm playing back, they said, "What do you reckon of Bradford?" I didn't understand any of them, what they was talking about. That accent. By the way, what's E by gum mean? But yeah, it was a surreal moment. Told my wife and she went, "You'll talk to anyone, won't you?" I went, yeah.
It could have been worse. You could have brought them home.
Oh, that's an idea.